My name is Lauren Jager, and this is my presentation on different explanations of mental illness. The American Psychiatric Association defines mental illnesses as being health conditions involving changes in emotion, thinking, or behavior, or a combination of these. Mental illnesses have existed and been discussed throughout history. They are not new, and though our terminology changes and the words we use to describe the different conditions change, we are still referring to the same things. So in general, we are trying to explain the same conditions now that we saw hundreds, thousands of years ago. Current terms in psychology for mental illness include psychopathology and abnormal behavior. Indications of mental illness include things such as harmful behavior, so extreme harm caused to oneself or others, unrealistic thoughts and perceptions, which include things such as delusions or hallucinations, inappropriate emotions, so experiencing extreme fear, happiness, sadness, or experiencing sadness in a situation that generally causes joy, or feeling joy when the situation kind of calls for sadness, or unpredictable behaviors, so emotions, behaviors, or beliefs that seem to change wildly without cause or reason. As noted in the lecture, a lot of these depend very heavily on those around us. So we are basing our definition of abnormality on our current definition of quote-unquote normality. So this is an issue that has been present throughout the history of mental illness, of defining mental illnesses, of at what point do we consider a behavior to be abnormal, to the point where it is causing harm to oneself and obstructing their ability to live their life. So how do we explain mental illness? The three categories for explanations include biological, psychological, and supernatural. So with biological explanations of mental illness, we're looking at it from a medical perspective. So here we are looking for physical causes for the mental illness. These are considered to be inheritable or caused by injuries or toxins, and this perspective was heavily influenced by Hippocrates and was temporarily lost after the fall of the Roman Empire. Biological explanations for mental illness included things such as neurotransmitter imbalances, abnormalities in brain structure, and brain injuries or infections. As seen in this little figure, there are things like environmental causes, genetics, certain lifestyle habits, and early treatments included things such as natural medical methods and focusing on physiology, so looking to quote-unquote cure the mental illness through medical methods. With psychological explanations, we are studying experiences that could cause the mental illness, so looking at situations that cause extreme fear, anxiety, frustration, or anger. Treatments involved reenacting traumatic events, dream analysis, or music therapy, and this perspective can still be seen in things we do today, such as behavioral therapy or teaching different coping mechanisms to patients. So some more explanation of causes, we're looking at things like psychological trauma, so experiencing or witnessing extreme violence, abuse, or neglect, stressful life events or environmental stressors. These would be seen to be causing conditions that we refer to today as PTSD, depression, dissociative disorders, or things like chronic anxiety. The last category for explanations of mental illness is supernatural. So instead of considering mental illnesses to be caused by physical or cognitive influences, we are looking at supernatural forces. These can include things such as the devil, demons, spirits. Treatments included removing bad blood through magic, exorcisms, bloodletting, putting holes in skulls to quote-unquote let the devil out. This was very popular during the Dark Ages, and in general, individuals with mental illness were often accused of being witches, leading them to be sentenced to death. In summary, explanations for mental illness generally fall into one of three categories: biological, psychological, or supernatural. Definitions of mental illness depend very heavily on the current definition of normal. So different time periods have had different definitions of normal. What the Dark Ages consider to be normal is probably very different than our definition of normal. And this is influenced at what point we consider something to be a mental illness. Explanations for how these mental illnesses are acquired vary depending on the time period, so the current zeitgeist of psychology and philosophy. And our current perspective draws very heavily on the biological and psychological perspectives in particular. All of my sources are in the description of the video, and thank you for watching.